It looks like Congresswoman Cheney is not going to be in her leadership role by the end of the week. Tell us about the process for the vote. What do we expect this week?
Well, Congresswoman Cheney's allies in the House Republican Conference are few and far between at this point, at least those who are willing to speak out publicly. Kinzinger, really perhaps the only major Republican House member who's still out publicly defending Cheney and making, I think, what is her key point here about wanting a commission to look into January 6th, really be focused on what happened on that day and not look away from it. And so I think Kinzinger's tweet is important in the context of Cheney perhaps losing some of her microphone, but having at least a little bit of backup here on that core issue. Now, about losing that microphone, we think that'll probably happen on Wednesday. House gets back tomorrow night. The first opportunity for House Republicans to meet as a group would come Wednesday. All it takes is a motion from a member to have this vote, and then it's purely a majority threshold to remove Congresswoman Cheney from her leadership position. There's no indication that that won't happen. As I said, very few public allies remaining for Congresswoman Cheney in the House Republican Conference. What's not entirely clear is what's the time frame after that until you would have the next vote on who would replace her. Again, Congresswoman Stefanik, the runaway favorite for that job, now endorsed by the House Republican leader and by former President Trump, of course, whom this is really all about at the end of the day.
You know, but Garrett, what continues to, I think, surprise a lot of folks is that if you look at her voting record, Liz Cheney voted in line more often with President Trump than her apparent replacement. How are they explaining that on the Hill, or are they?
Well, this is not about voting records, just as the Trump presidency was often not about policy and votes. It's about this particular individual, former President Trump, what is said about him, how he is discussed, and how often. House Republicans, even some of those who agree with Liz Cheney on the former president's role in January 6th or about his role going forward, don't want to keep talking about this. So they would rather talk about the votes they did take or the votes they didn't take in Lee Stefanik's case with the former president than to be constantly relitigating January 6th. And so they will vote to remove Cheney from her leadership position in the hopes that this issue goes away or is at least tamped down. From where I sit, I think that's unlikely. I think Congresswoman Cheney or Private Citizen Cheney or whomever she ends up being, as long as she still has the last name Cheney, is probably still going to keep getting asked about this a lot, and we're probably going to still keep covering it.
Yeah, that's a valid point there.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.